I don't think he's really watched film because you mentioned Russell Gage. You know, we love Russell, but Russell hasn't played a snap all year for us. He must be going off the preseason stuff that the media was talking about. He's a good player, but yeah, he's got to do a little bit more film study.
Okay, all right. So then we got this tweet from Gardner Johnson. He said, "The fact bro mentioned me. I gave dude his props." On somewhere else with that, 100. I don't know what all that was. Anyway, all right, so stop. Okay, RC, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Aaron Glenn better have a game plan for this Bucs passing game, but how do you think he goes about slowing it down?
I mean, you've seen what the Detroit Lions have gone to late in the season, and it's about bringing pressure from second-level defenders. Only Aiden Hutchinson has been able to create rush and winning one-on-ones in four-man rushes. So Aaron Glenn has sort of gone away from who he is, and he now brings pressure, especially when you have a slot corner like a guy like Brian Branch. So on the back end, it's all about man-to-man, being able to match coverages, cover bunches. The good thing about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if you're the Detroit Lions, is you don't get a ton of bunch. You don't get a ton of motion. And so if you can cover some of the crossers, be able to tackle in open space, I believe the Detroit Lions can be fine and also play extremely well in this game, especially looking at what they're coming off of, facing a very multiple Los Angeles Rams offense under Sean McVay.
Yeah, RC, I know when they do pressure, they better leave a RC or a Troy Polamalu back there. Because Mike Evans and Chris Godwin has absolutely been murdering man-to-man coverage with pressure as to why Baker is playing so well. And Aaron Glenn has done it. He's left a guy back there to kind of roam the center field to make sure that you can get some of this help that's needed in order to cover when Aaron Glenn does bring pressure. I think Detroit has found something, obviously, and Dan talked about it last week, and you as well, RC, but putting these guys in man-to-man situations, I saw time and time again. This is the one that's paramount for me. This is the one that was kind of relative to what we saw Baker Mayfield have an opportunity to do against the Philadelphia Eagles when they brought pressure. So, listen, I'm with it. AG has found success, but leave RC or Troy Polamalu back there and send somebody else, because Mike Evans over the top, he dropped the 60-yard pass on the pressure, and we saw the end of the game where Chris Godwin ended up one-on-one in the pressure for a touchdown. Just leave somebody back there, RC. Somebody help!
I think one of the things that stands out when you watch Tampa's pass game is they really do have precise spacing and displacement. I think that will challenge Detroit's secondary. The Baker Mayfield connection with Mike Evans and others matters. Mike's in the slot here, and they're going to motion the tight end out. So they want to start with Mike Evans. They're going to give him the choice right. He can go out, he can go in, he can sit versus leverage. That has to happen by itself timing-wise. So Mike is going to be bracketed by those two underneath defenders as Baker's looking here. So now he's got to get to number two, but number two can't happen right now. It has to happen just a fraction of a moment later. It's the seam up the numbers. But you want number two to happen before number three happens because of the spacing of the play, the timing of the play. That allows that to happen, Marcus. There's that situation where you want somebody back in the middle of the field. That matters. The motion down the bunch, playing man-to-man coverage. This is what Detroit's going to do. Now they want to chip the backside tight end. He's going to run a shallow cross, but you can't get out right now because you actually want that defender to be late when it comes to covering you. And that drop-down safety has to handle that two-level shallow and deep cross. Now, you want the shallow to trail the deep cross's steps and allow that backside safety to collide off of that front side nickel defender because of the spacing and displacement of that passing, and then Baker Mayfield on time. I think, now one of the things that I really thought stood out for me, RC, against the Rams was when Detroit played man, they did this great job of playing on different levels. I think that's going to be really important when they are playing man coverage because of how good they are with their displacement on Tampa's offense.
The other piece is actually having C.J. Gardner-Johnson back. If you remember his time in New Orleans, he was a slot corner, and they played a ton of man with A.G. there and Dennis Allen. And so I think it'll be smart to watch the way they adjust to these motions because there are multiple ways that you can play it. It's not always about layers. Sometimes it's about switching those things up and giving a quarterback like Baker Mayfield a different look.
Let's go to a huge matchup coming your way, 4:15 Saturday, right here on ESPN and ABC. Texans versus Ravens. C.J. Stroud will face a tough test on Saturday against a Ravens defense defense that allowed only 16.5 points per game this season, the best in the NFL. Stroud will be the 4th rookie quarterback to face that #1 scoring defense in the playoffs. In each of the previous 3 instances, the rookie QB lost the game. However, Stroud is red hot entering this game. Dan, what stood out to you about Stroud's performance in last week's dominant win over the Browns?
Yeah, it's almost like when CJ is forced to play faster than maybe on paper it's dictated or he wants to, he's at his absolute best. And I think there's one play that's the perfect example of a downfield shot to Nico Collins. So this is what it looks like to process information and play fast. CJ's going to catch that snap, and he's going to be peeking to the right, and he's going to do a great job of understanding, okay, as I peek to the right, he's got his vision there. This receiver is running what we call like an in-and-out whip route, okay? So the corner is playing man coverage right there, but then that safety also drops down. So you're sitting there going, okay, I'm staring that way, and that's not a good option. So my eyes are going to come to that number 2 spot. Now that number 2 spot is going to be this deep cross. Now when he brings his eyes that way, he's going to realize, okay, that safety is going to play over the top. So number 1, not good. Number 2, not good. Process quickly to get to what could be that 3rd option downfield, and Nico Collins on the go route. Now, this is what's great about CJ. As he snaps his head, see his head snap right there? He's ready to pull the trigger. But what happens is when he pulls his snap and looks at that number 2, and he's going to get double teamed essentially, Jeremiah Owusu-Koromoa, that off-the-ball linebacker, is going to do something what we call trigger pressure. He's got that back in man-to-man coverage. If that back blocks, he becomes an extra blitzer. So not only does CJ have to get from 1 to 2 to 3 quickly, this is one of my favorite plays of his all season. When he gets to number 3, he's going to have to make that decision to take that shot downfield, while Jock is basically splitting him in half. And the ability to process that information faster than you want to, and then get that ball downfield to Nico Collins, that's a rare combination of the mental talent to be able to get through number 3 in the progression because the defense told you to, but then also make that big time throw while getting hit. I think that's going to bode well. We've talked about Baltimore, their simulated pressures, the sacks that they get, the coverage combinations. He's going to have to do that play a bunch this weekend for them to win.
Interesting. And Nico Collins told me yesterday, CJ Stroud really is the total package. That's just the only way you can look at it. The ability of the talent plus the mental side and then everything else that comes with it. RC, give us the one thing that could determine how effective Stroud is on Saturday.
Dan just showed you. It's going to be about pressure. C.J. Stroud faced this defense week 1, and we didn't know what C.J. Stroud would be at that point. And he was 13 for 16 on 3rd down. And this was a guy that was sacked 5 times that game. And so even in watching Dan do that tape, it says this to me. It's not enough to just pressure C.J. Stroud. You have to put hands on him, whether it's Matabike, Jadeveon Clowney, or you're bringing Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith from the 2nd level. You have to touch C.J. Stroud. You have to not only move him off the spot, but not allow him to get the football out of his hands, because we've seen that throughout this season. If he has a clear path or an opportunity to release the football, he can do everything he needs to do to complete those passes under pressure. There's going to be a great chess match between Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens, and Bobby Slowick, the OC in Houston, to make sure that C.J. Stroud isn't playing on time. Because if he is, I don't care who the team is, he can be successful.
Yeah, I like that, RC. And D.O., I'm going to go back to formation or personnel we talked about. It's technically 13, but, you get here and you got 22 because Beck is considered a fullback. But when you look at C.J. Stroud and the protection that's needed, you look at his ability to process and push the ball down the field, and Brevin Jordan has become a godsend for these guys. But the ability to run the football and have this type of option off of the play-action pass is a huge thing, especially against Baltimore, who likes to bring linebackers, and obviously Kyle Hamilton coming down out of the backfield. This is one of those formations where I think you can even out and even settle your quarterback. Look, for all we've talked about with C.J. Stroud and how phenomenal he is, this is going to be M&T and Bank Stadium, and you got Lamar Jackson on the other side. There will be a different type of pressure on a rookie quarterback. Now, we've seen him handle everything that you could throw at him in the NFL. But I think the more you can get him in favorable situations and settle him, he can have a tremendous amount of success as well. And I think that's one of the personnel.
Yeah, we just spoke to Lamar a little while ago in preparation for this game, and he was very adamant that he wanted to give C.J. Stroud a ton of credit. He said he's been amazed watching his rookie season. We do have some news from the Ravens side of things, new on NFL Live, something to do with the Ravens defense. Here's Adam Schefter tweeting they ruled out Marlon Humphrey for Saturday's divisional playoff game against the Texans due to a calf injury. Harbaugh was hopeful he could maybe play, but Adam, add a little bit more here.
Yeah, this is not a surprise to the Ravens. I think that they were concerned that they would be without Marlon Humphrey, and now the news is official. He is officially ruled out for this game. Mark Andrews, tight end, listed as questionable for this game. Real question about whether he can go, despite the fact that he was a full participant in practice this weekend for the Houston Texans. Their defensive end, Jerry Hughes, ruled out due to an ankle injury. So some injury news for you there regarding Saturday's game, Laura.